Hey, Journey family and friends, welcome to this week's edition of Midweek Conversations. Pastor John and Pastor Dustin.
Hello, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yeah, man. Me, always glad to be here. We are excited about what God's doing at Journey right now.
So good.
And we kind of want to start with that.
Yep.
Just to make sure we give God thanks and praise. Just last week, just so you know, we had 11 baptisms starting on Monday of last week.
Yeah.
All the way through Sunday. It was just amazing. And the stories behind them, from people from our online campus to people that have been connected to a funeral in some way.
This is after 26 baptisms on Baptism Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's not like we haven't
Amazing.
done baptisms in a while.
I know.
And the thing that you and I have been talking about is and this is what I love, they're not... some of them aren't planned. A lot of them are organic.
Most of them aren't.
They're just, God's just doing something. Yeah. And we saw one mother and daughter that's completely online, been following online, and they said, hey, we want to get baptized. So they did that. They came here. We had it set up.
It was great.
Beautiful, beautiful family.
Yeah.
And then on the weekend, we saw some. So we saw some on the weekday, the weekend. And one of the highlights
in student ministry.
I mean,
there's been students baptized at their Wednesday night high school gatherings. So yeah.
One really cool one took place this past weekend at Apopka was the firemen.
Yes.
And there was a fireman that got baptized, and man, he's on fire. But the person that baptized him, he's on fire.
So the fireman is on fire.
The fireman is on fire.
Gotcha.
Yes.
All right. I thought you were supposed to put out the fire.
We try to warn y'all that this is unscripted, and we're proving it. I couldn't have scripted that any better. But the fireman loves the Lord a lot, which means he's on fire.
There you go. Okay.
And it was so cool. The person that baptized him was his captain, his former captain.
Yeah.
And the fire department. And man, every story was just so good. We saw one baptism where she came out of the water and almost just...
Yeah, I'd say she was vibrating.
Yeah.
She was just kind of shaking in joy of the Spirit. And it was just awesome. So so many great stories. If you missed this past week's message, you really need to go back. Pastor Dustin did an awesome job just talking about what Jesus did at the cross, and very powerful, very practical, great illustrations, and just connected so well. So
I appreciate it.
Right there, man.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
So that was a great message. So that's I did a message called Why. Dustin did a message called What. This Sunday, I'll be doing the message, and it's called Who. Who is the cross for? A little bit of twist on that, of who the cross is for.
Like twist, like as in not you, or you're just going to leave it hanging?
We're going to leave them hanging. They need to come and check it out.
I like
it. This weekend, online or on site.
Yep.
And we continue to see people return on site, which is great. I know there's some friends that I haven't seen in over a year.
Yep.
They were out with us here at Apopka. I'm sure that's happening at Lake County as well. So that's it. But the online numbers are still strong. Yeah. I mean, we still see a lot of numbers, devices that are connected with us online. We don't know how many people that represents, but a lot. So
I think this is a season, possibly the greatest season since I've been here, that you are telling people about Journey and about Jesus.
Yeah.
That's because we're seeing people come on site and online, but y'all are just spreading it, and it's just really cool. So thank you for what you're doing, and we appreciate that.
Amen. So today in Midweek Conversations, we're going to take a little bit of a turn here to a conversation we recorded a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I like this conversation with your buddy.
Yeah, my best buddy is a pastor named David Vaughan. Dave and I have known each other for 40 years, and just excited about what God's done in our lives through the years. We talk a little bit about that in this conversation, just to give you a little bit of background of who he is and how we've known each other and how God has just grown us up as men, as pastors, as husbands, as fathers, and now as grandfathers as well. But I just love my buddy, and so Pastor Dustin sat down with us and we had a conversation, and we're going to take you to that right now. And so enjoy this time with Pastor Dave and Pastor John and Pastor Dustin. Hey, Journey family, welcome to Midweek Conversations. We have a special edition that we want to share with you. Pastor Dustin Agard always joining me here on Midweek Conversations.
Today's a good day. We say this a lot, but that's because we only bring in great guests.
There you go.
Today is a good day.
Who's coming?
Somebody close to you, Pastor John.
Yeah.
One of your best buddies for many years. Why don't you introduce him?
This is Pastor David Vaughan, and David Vaughan and I go back. It's funny. I would say Dave Vaughan, and when Rachel was a little girl, she thought your name was Davon. Because I would say Dave Vaughan.
That makes sense.
Or a lot of times I would say Vaughan, because in Bible college we called each other last names, Hampton, Vaughan. It's kind of. But Dave and I go back to. I met him when I was a freshman. So I was 17 years old when I met this guy. I won't tell you how many years that is.
Freshman in college.
I was a freshman in college.
17.
Yeah, well,
think about that.
Yeah, I started a little early.
Man,
I was 17. I was a freshman. Dave was a sophomore. We roomed next door to each other. Didn't room with each other, but we roomed next door to each other, and quickly found out a lot of things in common, particularly Kentucky basketball in general. We had some great pickup games, didn't we?
We did, man. It was a basketball hot spot.
Were you with us when we broke into that one gym and got in trouble? Were you
I
a part
know
of that?
nothing of that. I'm ashamed.
statute of limitations
I'm
in
ashamed of
Kentucky.
you. I'm ashamed of you if you did. There was no there was no gym at this college.
No, there wasn't.
We were
In
thirsty.
No, it's
in
Cincinnati.
It's
Oh, okay,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, crazy.
So, we anyhow, we played a lot of ball, and then we started playing golf. I was not a golfer. You played golf in high school.
I did. I played a lot of golf in high school.
And Dave's a great golfer. And so he showed mercy on me, took me out, and said, let me teach you a few things about golf. Unfortunately, it didn't take very well.
Now, John Hampton has beat me a few times, though.
Yeah,
just
but
so
I
you
can
know,
count them on two hands.
He does win. I think since he's
Pastor
moved
John
to
can
Florida,
play. He can play some
he
golf.
moved south. He's upped his game.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so one of the things that we always enjoyed doing is we go over to Florence Mall, which is in Kentucky, and we would just go over. They had nobody had video games anywhere except in a mall, and we would go over, and there was a basketball video game we loved to play, and we compete against each other, and then we'd eat chocolate chip cookies together. I cannot think of what
praise
those were.
God for those chocolate chip cookies.
Mrs.
Fields?
Maybe that was it.
Mrs. Fields.
Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookies. Dave was engaged when I met him to a woman named Donna, who he's married to now. That was an interesting year, how that went. We won't get into that.
That's another candid conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. But Dave and Donna did get married the next year.
Amen.
And Dave told Donna, he said, I would like to add a guy to our wedding party. And since I've come to know Donna very well over the years, I could imagine that was an interesting. Donna's very planned.
Yeah, very organized.
Very
Thank God.
organized.
God knew what I needed.
And so that was a big ask that you made of her to
You're
say,
welcome.
I want to add a guy to our wedding party. And Donna graciously let me do that. Real funny story real quick. So Dave's cousin, Larry Church, was his best man. Dave's roommate, J.D. Hughes, was also in a wedding party. And the three of us conspired. I was just kind of around. I wasn't around.
Yeah.
But
He's an instigator.
But the three of us conspired to steal David's shoes the night before the wedding.
Oh, man.
And there was a point in the service where they were going to do the Lord's Prayer, and they were going to kneel at a kneeling bench, and a woman was going to sing the Lord's Prayer. And so we stole Dave's shoes, and we wrote on the bottom of them so that when people saw, this is a preacher now, and his dad's the preacher of this church,
True.
and when they knelt, the shoe said, "Help me." And so
I've needed help ever since.
Could they read it? Did people
absolutely.
see it?
And
Oh, my
people across, so this woman is singing the Lord's Prayer right in front of me, and Dustin, I am crying. I'm laughing so hard. And Dave quickly realized something had happened, and he looked up at his dad and he said, they did something to my shoes. And his dad was like, just kind of play it out here. That took a while before me and you and Donna could talk about that.
Yeah, that was an experience, for better or for worse.
So listen, 2 years later, I'm getting married, and Dave is my best man. I slept with my shoes.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
He's not turning them loose.
Did you do anything to him? Or did you let him off the hook?
No, he was on to us by then. So
Yeah.
no, I just had to open up my trunk and sell stuff after the wedding or reception because when you're poor,
That's true.
And you're a young preacher, you got to sell stuff. So I did take the advantage of his wedding party to sell some things out of my trunk.
And that is true. He was literally selling car speakers and knives and
Socket
perfume
sets,
at my
absolutely.
wedding.
Yeah.
True story. That's true.
That's a very true story.
absolutely
Oh,
true.
ask Melinda how true that is.
That's absolutely true.
So, Dave,
There's going to be a crowd.
you and Don have been married 40 years this
40
year.
years this July.
Melinda
Can
and
you
I'll be
believe
married
that?
38 years this year. So you have 2 children. Tell them about your kids.
Yep. I have 2 kids, Amanda and Tyler, and man, they're growing up quick and fast, and so 2 grandkids. They're my granddad and grandma are not as cool as they used to be when your grandkids get to be teenagers. So our kids live in Cincinnati, our grandkids live in Cincinnati, and so John and I have done life together. I mean, think of it, 40 years, John. Does it seem like 40 years to you?
And you're Poppy, right? For your
Yeah,
grandkids?
I'm Poppy.
And I'm Pappy.
Pappy and Poppy.
That sounds like a routine,
That's
doesn't
the
it?
new name to this
Pappy and
episode.
Poppy.
Poppy and
That
Poppy.
sounds like
Poppy
Dean
and
Martin,
That's your own radio show.
Yeah, that's
Now, I don't know if we mentioned this. You're a pastor up there. Tell
I am.
a little bit about your church, how long you've been there.
I am. Whitewater Crossing Christian Church is the name of the church that I'm the preacher at. Actually got the opportunity to be the preacher because of John, and we were out, I think, golfing or at a conference, and he got a call from the pulpit committee there. He said, "Are you looking for a guy?" And John said, "I think you're close to praying about a move, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So he got in touch with them, and so I owe really the opportunity to interview there to John. First couple of years were kind of rough, and so I wasn't a fan of John. I said,
Didn't know if I did you a favor or
I didn't
cursed
know
you.
if you were helping or hurting. But then after the first 4 or 5 years, things settled down. Church got healthy, started to grow, and it's just been the ride and privilege of my life to do that. And so we love Cincinnati, but it's always good to have a best buddy in Florida.
Yeah. In Florida.
Dave was youth ministry. Your first ministry was a youth ministry,
ministry.
There you go.
in Milford Christian Church.
Yeah.
You were a youth minister, and about 5 miles down the road was my preaching ministry.
Yes.
So I was a preaching minister at Claysville Christian Church,
Where are we talking? What state?
little Kentucky, rural Kentucky,
Bracken County.
not far from where I grew up. So I was the preacher. Dave was a youth minister.
And this is after
up the
college, so
road.
y'all knew each other.
No, this is in college.
In
Okay,
college.
so you
So-
know
so-
each other, so you're near each other. Okay.
Absolutely. So I think I told you about that church.
I think he did. Yeah.
You're gonna
I've
have
been
to start coming up
responsible
with a
for every.
kickback. You need
Yeah,
to start
I'm
kicking
not
back.
sure that there's any
responsible.
job he's had that I'm not some way responsible
And
for.
he has not collected a finder fee in any way.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah. I think it's an intervention.
them
That's
in
what
the
I'm-
eyes.
I feel like it's an intervention.
We have a number we're thinking of.
So Dave was, and then he became youth pastor at a church in Lexington. He was there for several years. I go to Mississippi in that time period. Dave invites me to speak at that church in Lexington. They remembered that a few years later after they were looking for a preacher, and they called me up.
Welcome. See, I did.
So
pay him back a
Dave
little
did
bit.
connect me with that church. When I got to Lexington, I thought, oh man, I'm going to go work with my best buddy. And Dave said, I got a taste of preaching, and I really want to do this. And he left. So we worked together, 3-4 months?
Yeah.
And Dave left and went to Virginia, and was there. How long you were in Virginia?
Yeah, 13 years in Virginia, over on the coast of Virginia.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, Chesapeake, Virginia.
Yeah.
Lindale.
Lindale Christian Church. That was my only other preaching ministry before I came to Cincinnati.
And
so.
then
You've been there, I think, 18 years, right? In Cincinnati. Yeah, so you've been there a while. One of the things you mentioned is that it didn't start off good, but then it got healthy. And we know this.
Yeah.
Nothing gets healthy on accident.
no, that's right.
Oh, that's true.
And it doesn't drift to health. And so that takes good leadership. It takes God. And so we know enough about you to know you're just a great leader, not just a great pastor, but a great leader. And so I'm not as familiar with the church, but I know you are. If you want to speak into what it was to where it is now, because it's a thriving, great church now.
Well, the church Westwood Cheviot had been around for years, had a reputation, not always a good one, but the reputation of just being very traditional, very anchored to their past a lot, kind of a high church, a certain liturgy to how they did things that they did not want to budge off of. Didn't matter if they were reaching lost people or not. Ran off several preachers, good guys.
This is what you agreed to.
I know. What was I thinking?
So I introduced I did my buddy a favor. I said, hey, you need to hire this guy. So Dave comes in and he begins to challenge that culture because that's who he is. He's going to be a difference maker. And he began to challenge that. Hey, we're going to lean into reaching lost people, got to make some changes. And it was difficult. It was difficult had to deal with some staff issues early on. But then you could tell a change was being made, I think because Dave persevered and stayed the course, and I think God honored that, and then led through a building program, and just your building program. So Dave, tell them a little bit about the church. Was what, couple hundred, 250 when you first went there?
When I arrived, they were around about 450.
Okay,
and they had a slow burn reached their zenith back in the 70s. Under a legendary pastor by the name of Harold Hockley. Man, he's a good guy. But they were, John articulated, very formal. Gold chandeliers. He always wore a suit and tie. I never wore a tie. The ushers, when they came for the offering and communion, they walked in cadence like a wedding ceremony from the back. Now think about that. Very highbrow, white collar, pretty wealthy church. Guy from Kentucky. Little bit of a slang, a little folksy. I wasn't going to wear a tie. It was a little bit of a disruption for them. But that's where it got started. I did such a good job as a leader. We lost about 150 people my first year. And, man, I was good. But it was the right people that left. So the phrase we would use is, there's nothing like the church when the church is working right. There's nothing worse than when the church is not working right. Journey and other churches have been through that. You have these peaks and valleys. So we've said it's not, and we've grown dramatically, numerically since then. But it's not about church growth. It's about church health. And that does not happen, accidentally. That's what you're talking about. So somebody's got to get healthy, usually the leader. I think they were looking for a guy that loved lost people and wouldn't quit. All the rest was gravy. And I could do those two things, although it was harder than I thought. It's worse than I thought it was going to be. But I'm so thankful I didn't quit. And thanks to friends like John and my wife, I didn't.
Dave, I think one of Dave's real gifts that I've seen over the years is he's a good thinker. You're a very good thinker. Dave is very systemically thinking. He thinks about systems, how systems work. Helped a lot of other churches do that same thing. Dave's consulting with a lot of churches. Has been doing that for several years now. And he helps churches think through, are your systems healthy? And that's really good. Dave, I've learned a lot from Dave over the years through that. But getting your systems healthy takes some time, takes some coaching, and takes a leader like that to understand that. So I think that's been one of the things that Dave has brought, not only to his church, but to a lot of other churches.
That's good. All right, couple questions.
Yep.
Round of golf, who's winning?
Hands down.
Okay.
Sometimes.
I mean, we hadn't played golf. Dave and I saw each other in October. Hadn't played golf since October. He hasn't. I have. So he comes down the week we're doing this recording, and we go out and we play golf. His first time in 5 months, he shoots 79. Now, if you're a golfer, that's good, and you know that. But shooting the 70s when you haven't played in 5 months, that just tells you if he had a little more time, he probably would be shooting par. So
all right, let's go
wins.
from outside to
I'm
inside.
a preacher that golfs, not a golfer that preaches. There is a difference.
Well said. Let's go inside. How about basketball? Who's winning?
We played a lot of basketball together.
It depends. Dave's got this crazy inside game. He makes the wildest shots in basketball.
You're a little unorthodox.
It's been a long time ago, though.
He just kind of flung the ball up.
Well, let me just tell you,
go in.
he's talking past tense, and so are you. My man's still playing,
I
and
know
he's still
he
got a
is.
great jump
He's
shot.
still got game. Old
he
dude
does.
got game.
He's got some game.
Oh, dude, you shoot.
Old dude shoot.
Yeah.
I still can. Yeah, outside shooting, I could probably take him, but inside,
he's good. He's
he worked.
good
He worked me
outside
over.
shooting.
All right. Okay. Now, let's do. So part of the conversation here is midweek. We want to give something that people maybe don't always get. So I want you both to kind of speak into this. Tell us something. The Journey crowd that's listening, tell us something that maybe they don't know about Pastor John.
Interesting.
And then I'm going to flip it to you for the
know.
Cincinnati folks watching.
Yeah.
All right.
And I'm not talking. I mean,
I
it
will
could
tell you
just be
something you
either
don't
something you
know.
appreciate or weird
I'll tell you
or
something
whatever.
you don't know. You may know. I've been around to speak, preach a couple times with John, Phil, and other. Here's something you don't know. John once dated my sister.
I did not know that.
Did you know that?
Man.
I
didn't know he was going to go there.
This is way before Melinda now. Way before.
Well, sorta.
See, you better have another. Well, I don't know if this is good to film or
We're
not.
going to need to roll to a commercial.
You need a roll B here. B-roll here. So, yeah, it broke my dad's heart, too. I could have had
when
John
they started
in the family.
dating or when they broke up?
When they broke up.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. He loved it when they were dating. So he did date my sister for a while, and
See,
then
that's the
figured out
stuff
this
that
is not.
that's what we're digging for here.
There you go. Not going to work out. So I'll let John, talk about that.
Yeah. That we just need to do a part 2 to a lot of this. But that's true. That's true. I was actually dating Dave's sister when I met Melinda, and we'll just leave it at that. Something that people probably Dave plays guitar. He sings a little bit.
I do.
And Dave and I have actually sang in the church together before.
We do.
We did what would we do? The Lighthouse, wasn't it?
We did the Lighthouse.
We did the Lighthouse.
And, Consider the
Lilies. These are old songs. Anybody that's
We've
50
gotta
and under,
see
they
this.
have no idea.
gotta
We've
see this.
destroyed the
Listen,
film.
he had hair. He had a lot of hair at the time, but we'd play. Like to sing. Both like a little bit of country music.
we
But
like
we've actually probably the only other pastor I've ever sang with was him.
Yeah, that is another thing that people don't know. I knew a little of country music when I met John, but it was like my dad's music, like Flat and Scruggs or bluegrass. John was the first
have no
guy that
idea what you're
introduced
talking
me. Yeah, bluegrass. John was the guy that introduced me to about what was then Alabama and regular country.
Skaggs.
Ricky Skaggs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that till I started listening to who is this guy in this country music. So I blame him for that.
So if you're watching, just go ahead and type right now your favorite country artist.
Absolutely.
So we can see who
Country.
that is.
And I
'Cause
love
we got
country
some,
music
We got some
now.
people that like country music that are watching.
Three chords
They're
and
with
the
you.
truth, man. That's
Yep.
country music.
Yeah.
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 All right. So that's good. So now your turn. So I guess that was the guitar and the singing.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I love, and one of the reasons why I wanted to bring y'all together is it's just cool to be able to hear pastors and leaders more on an intimate level, just behind the scenes, relationship, friendship. And obviously you have a lot of fun, but there's a depth to y'all's friendship. And what do you think makes that, what are some of the common traits that y'all have that go beyond the surface? It's not just golf, there's golf and a depth that Christ is the center. What are some things that y'all have done along the way to have such a great relationship?
I'll share first, and then I'll let Dave finish that up. I think we both love that we get to do ministry. I think we both see it as a calling, as a privilege, and I think iron sharpens iron, and I think we've made each other better. And so some of the things I've learned, I say, Dave, let me tell you this. Have you read this? Let me tell you what I heard. And he'll tell me something. Hey, I was reading this. You should know. And so we just had a desire to learn and keep getting better. Dave thinks probably more systematically leader. I'm more of the preacher. And so Dave said, hey, won't you come preach? And hey, do you have a message on that? Can you send me that series? And I would do that. And so I think just understanding the strength that we brought to the friendship, to the relationship, was important. I just read a great book by C.S. Lewis called The Four Loves, and he talks about phileo. There's storge, affection, there's eros, erotic love, there's phileo, brotherly love, and then there's agape, which is God's love. And phileo is about friendship. And he does a great job, and as I was thinking about me and you, he explains what friends bring to each other, and how they enrich each other. And I think that's been a depth. But then, before I let him talk, I think it's the painful experiences that we have in our life. And there's been some painful times that we've had personally, in our family, with our kids, some health crisis that we had, and how Dave was one of those very first guys to just show up and call up and just say, "How you doing? I love you. We're gonna get through this." I shared this with our staff a couple years ago. Melinda was hospitalized. We've talked about this at the church before, just having a health crisis, mental health crisis, and Dave called me and said, "I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow. Don't have to get me at the airport. I'm going to get a rental car." And he showed up. And I don't know if you remember what you said. I opened the door and just kind of fell onto him crying. And Dave said, "Whatever it is, we're going to get through this." And just having somebody in your life that you've known all those years just to say, "Whatever it is, I'm here for you, and we're going to get through this." That deepens a relationship beyond what you can know.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was a one-way ticket. Am I right? I mean, at the time, it was, from what I remember the story. Yeah,
I didn't book a return flight because I didn't know how long I needed to stay.
Which adds to that. And busy leader, busy pastor.
Absolutely.
And but said, "Hey, the friendship, got to put some things on pause. Got to go do that." I love that. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? He'd have done it for me, and will do it for me.
Yeah.
I think I've reflected a lot, because sometimes preachers will talk to John and I, and when they learn of our friendship, they don't have that. So I think we took it for granted for a long time.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
chemistry, the trust. We both like the same things. Thankfully, our wives like each other. That helps. We've endured, and so we took it for granted. And then we started realizing, I don't know, maybe a decade in, maybe 2 decades in, you know what? This is special. It has to be nurtured. It has to be protected. It should be encouraged. And that's when we thought, God put this together for a variety of reasons.
Amen.
So I am not who I am sitting right here today without this guy, John Hampton. I would not. How could I not come down there that day, as he has been there for me so many times as well? So there is a friend that sticks closer to a brother. I never had a brother, but I got a brother in John. So there's not much he doesn't know about me, and vice versa. We know enough to be dangerous about each other.
Yeah.
There's no secrets. You're only as sick as your secret. I know y'all talk about that here. So early on, I figured I need a guy like that, and we're going to be friends. I love what John said one time. We're going to be friends no matter what church we're at. We're going to be,
or when we're at no church.
When we're at no church, which is going to happen. So our identity is not in what we do; it's who we are in Jesus. But I'm going to tell you, together we're better. 2 are better than 1. And so I think there's something there to that. And I look forward to the next season of doing life with him. And it's a special thing when you find that guy. So find whoever that is.
Yeah.
Find them, and you'll be blessed just like we have been.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. So thanks, brother. There's a lot we could talk about. We try to hold this to.
Well, I'm gonna pause.
Oh, you gonna pause me, ma'am? Okay.
Yeah. Just because we can, you're a guest.
Sure.
And he would never do this. We got some Journey folks.
Yeah.
What would you say to Journey about our lead pastor?
Yeah. Well, as I said to the staff, we had a great staff meeting.
It was really good.
A little bit ago, talked a little bit about how to handle criticism, and before I talked about that, I said, y'all don't realize the blessing you have in this man, John Hampton. And Journey, you will never know how many churches would love to have the guy that you have. And I've seen him in action. I've seen him when you haven't seen him, and he's the real deal.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. There's an integrity, not a perfection. In fact, he's very honest about his foibles and his failures, and that's what's attractive.
Yeah.
But boy, there's never been a greater preacher in my mind than John Hampton. I like to preach. John loves to preach. And I knew that. I saw that from day one in Cincinnati Christian University. And so you are blessed to have this guy preach to you every week. But here's what I know about preaching. It's not so much the art of preparing a message and delivering it. It's the art of preparing a man and delivering them. And John has been a walking sermon for you. And don't take it for granted because you have been blessed, and as well, people be in heaven because of it.
That's good. I appreciate that. So we are in March. So it's March now. We got something that we like to call March Madness.
So I've heard.
Okay. So
if he wasn't a preacher, John could be a color commentator on basketball. I'm just telling you right now.
Let me tell you, for Kentucky fans like myself and Dave, although he claims Virginia too.
I do. Adopted.
This is not March Madness. This is March Sadness.
That's true.
We are going to have
true.
a very sad March, and it's going to be a very short March for
Due
Kentucky
to some
fans.
personal reasons, Kentucky is boycotting this year's March Madness.
Yeah, exactly.
They are protesting. Now, who do you have? I want to ask both of you. Who do you have in the finals? Okay, don't tell me Kentucky. Don't. Who do you see in the finals, and who do you see winning it?
Gonzaga is going to win it. I think Gonzaga is going to go undefeated. First team to do it since the 1976 Indiana Hoosiers team. So Gonzaga is going to win it. Chuck Gibson, shout out to you, Chuck. I know that's your team.
Is he a Gonzaga fan?
Oh my gosh.
I guess so. Yeah, that would make sense.
Washington State, he loves.
Yep.
So this year I'm pulling for the Zags. I don't know who will be the Final Four, but they're going to win it.
Okay, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, John stole my thunder. I'm telling you. It's Gonzaga. They're men among boys.
Yeah.
So again, I've lost interest now. You know, there's no Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati, so Cincinnati sports fans are used to disappointment. The Reds stink, the Bengals stink, college basketball, everything. I've learned not to invest emotionally in any Cincinnati sports teams, and now my Kentucky Wildcats are going too. But
well, I have insider information that the Gators will be in the finals against Gonzaga.
Really?
Okay.
And I see them upsetting them.
Wow.
Really?
Final score 82-36.
Okay, put a timestamp on this.
82
So
to
it's a
36.
prophet. He's a
you
prophet.
heard it here first.
What'd you say, 82 to 36?
82 to 30.
Okay, gotcha.
I told you it's an upset. It's,
82
well,
to
now we're
36.
it's a
getting-
full court press the entire game.
Now we're getting into delusions and
That's another
fantasy
session,
world
yeah.
here. So that's a whole nother session. Brother, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Love to be in here. It's an honor to be invited. I've sit on the stage and spoke to people before, and I love Journey, and
Well, we'll get
I'm
you back.
loving the journey.
There you go.
You know?
He said it right.
And as the colder it gets in Cincy, the more I love Florida.
Yeah, when I told Dave I was coming to Florida 11 years ago, he's like, wow, good, because I'm here in Cincinnati, and you're leaving me here in Ohio.
Yeah, he was in Canton.
I was
and
in
said,
Canton.
Come to Ohio. Come to. As soon as we got to Ohio, I'm going to Florida.
I'm going to Florida. We had a few years we overlapped in the state.
We did.
But this has become a winter residence for you to come and hang out.
Very true.
And we do that, and I think that's
Very true.
important, that you're intentional about hanging out with the people that you need to hang out with. So that's Dave. So thanks.
So
Thanks for doing
before
Yep.
we sign off, I just wanted, Journey, one of the reasons we thought this would be good, I thought this would be a good idea just because I think it's always good when you can hear people that are up close to people that have a platform. And I think it's important for you to know, some of you don't know Pastor John on a personal level, but to be able to hear his heart from 40 years that he is the real deal, man of integrity. And so thank you so much, and thank you for being here. It's been good.
All right.
It's my honor.
Thanks for joining us on Midweek Conversations. Join us for worship on site or online this weekend. And as always, we're loving the journey.